Speeding fines can be pretty hefty and carry the risk of a driving ban. Let's look at how you might contest a ticket and your chances of successfully challenging one in court. Speeding tickets can get very expensive. Just how far over the speed limit you were driving, along with your weekly income, is usually what's used to determine how much your fine will be. The greater the speed, the greater the percentage of your weekly income that you'll be fined, as well as racking up a greater amount of penalty points onto your license. This means that two people can be fined different amounts for the same type of speeding offence. When you're just over the speed limit, the lowest penalty you might pay is £100 with 3 penalty points. However, you might be banned from driving if you get more than 12 points. In the UK, speeding fines are capped at £2,500 on motorways and £1,000 on other roads. Some of the worst speeding offences can cost up to 700% of your weekly income without exceeding those caps. If you've already got a lot of penalty points or you're being accused of a significant speeding offence, then trying to contest your ticket might be your only option to avoid a driving ban or an extremely big fine. However, for smaller fines where your licence isn't at risk, whether or not it's worth contesting a ticket is less obvious. The court may well still side with the police, the result being that a relatively small initial fine could become far more expensive once court costs are added. So to understand a few possible reasons to contest a ticket, we first need to look at the process for being issued with a speeding fine. Firstly, you must be issued with a Notice of Intended Prosecution, or NIP. Only after you've received an NIP can you then be issued with a speeding fine, or to give it its proper name, a fixed penalty notice. Parts of this process have got time limits, which if exceeded, become a convenient loophole for not having to pay. If you're pulled over by a police officer for speeding, then they can give you the NIP verbally. But if you're caught by a camera, then the NIP will be posted out to whoever is the registered owner of the vehicle. These postal NIPs must be sent within 14 days from the date of the alleged speeding offence. It has been known for the police to send out the Notice of Intended Prosecution late. Things like a bank holiday or a postal strike could delay the NIP. If your NIP wasn't received within 14 days of the offence, then the police can no longer prosecute. This means you cannot be served with a fixed penalty notice and therefore don't have to pay a fine or accept penalty points on your licence. The police won't necessarily know that it arrived late, so be sure to send it back as out of time. Otherwise, you risk being summoned to a magistrate's court for failing to comply. However, if the NIP was served within 14 days, then there's a second time limit that the police need to adhere to. They only have 6 months to issue you with the actual fine, the fixed penalty notice. So if there's a delay sending you your fixed penalty notice, then you might not have to pay. However, as we're dealing with a much more significant time frame, 6 months, this one is less likely to occur. But if your fixed penalty notice does arrive late, then like a late NIP, you'll need to let the police know why it is that you're not paying. Opting to attend a speed awareness course can be a good way to get out of paying. You'll usually be offered the chance to attend one of these if it's your first offence and you were only slightly over the speed limit. These courses will chew up a day of your time. They'll require you to get yourself there and are hardly a barrel of laughs, but they are usually considered preferable to a fine. However, it's up to the discretion of the police whether or not to offer you the chance to attend one of these, and you can't ask to be put on one. Plus, you're only a first-time speeding offender once. If you choose to pay the fine instead of attending, but later get caught speeding again, don't think that the course will be offered to you a second time. In some circumstances, you might be able to argue that there was no legal notice of the speed limit for the road. However, recent campaigns like Streetlights Mean 30 are making these excuses harder to use. For these excuses to have any hope of working, you'll still need to have been travelling at a sensible speed for the road conditions. You can't very well blame the lack of a speed limit sign for you getting caught zooming along at 100 miles an hour. Additionally, you'll likely need the right type of photographic evidence and knowledge of how to argue a case in court, something probably best left to a lawyer or barrister who's experienced in speeding fine offences. You might be able to claim that the speed camera was faulty or miscalibrated. However, it can be very difficult to prove this, as the police don't need to release their evidence to you unless the matter goes to court. Again, it's probably best to speak to a legal expert before trying this approach. If you do choose to contest your speeding ticket in court, then first reply to the fine and fill in the not guilty plea. Next, you'll get a court summons. Then either contact a solicitor or do lots and lots and lots of legal research in order to represent yourself. As mentioned, even though you might wish to contest your fine in court, and you have every right to do so, it can be very difficult to win these cases because you only need to have been proven to have exceeded the speed limit briefly. You could hire an expensive lawyer or barrister to argue your case in court, and many celebrities have done this successfully. But it's still not guaranteed, and it's not something that everyone can afford to do. And be warned, an unsuccessful speeding fine challenge is likely to result in an even bigger fine. However, if you think the offence wasn't genuine, say you weren't the driver, your car had been stolen, or your vehicle was mistakenly identified as speeding, then it could be worth contesting the fine. In these circumstances, you might find that a speed camera photo that shows that you weren't the driver, or that someone was using your registration on another car, that speed camera photo could be a very helpful thing indeed. If you want to challenge a ticket or you're worried that a fine is about to land you in trouble, then as mentioned, a popular option is to consult a solicitor for help. There's many online solicitors that work out cheaper and easier than meeting in person. JustAnswer, for example, only costs £5 for a trial. One of my colleagues saved over £270 on a parking ticket by using their service. I've linked that offer in the description, and if you use that, you'll also be supporting Money Nerd, so thank you.